We've come to the end of another week of Circuit Breaker, and I trust you are keeping well. For today's Bible reading is going to be a short one from Romans chapter 1, verses 14 to 16. And in these verses, we'll look at the reasons that Paul gives for his service. Why was he going about preaching the gospel of God? Why was he preaching the gospel of Christ to the men and women around him? We would have read earlier in Romans chapter 1, verse 1 to 7, the description that Paul gives of his mission. In those verses, we read that Paul describes himself as a servant who is preaching the Son through the Holy Scriptures, and as a result of his preaching of the gospel, God deems fit to call unto himself saints from every nation. And in today's reading, we'll look at some of the reasons why Paul is going about preaching. Verse 14 of Romans chapter 1 says, I am a debtor both to the Greeks and to the barbarians, both to the wise and to the unwise. So as much as in me is, I am ready to preach the gospel to you that are at Rome also. Verse 16, for I am not ashamed of the gospel of Christ, for it is the power of God unto salvation to everyone that believeth, to the Jew first, and also to the Greek. So here we have three very simple reasons that Paul gives for his service. In verse 14, I am a debtor. Verse 15, I am ready. And verse 16, I am not ashamed. So we consider them very quickly in turn. Firstly, he says, I'm a debtor. He's a debtor. Why? He's a debtor firstly to God and to his Son Jesus Christ, because Paul recognizes it is by grace that he has been saved. It is by grace that he has been saved by the work of the Lord Jesus Christ. The Lord Jesus Christ died upon that cross as his substitute, and for you as your and my substitute. And the Lord Jesus Christ was raised from the dead on the third day according to Scriptures, and therefore demonstrating that God has accepted his sacrifice. And therefore men and women, people like Paul, people like you, people like me, can have our sins forgiven if we trust in the Lord Jesus Christ and put our faith in him and serve him and obey him. So because of this free gift which Paul has received, he feels indebted firstly to God out of gratitude, out of love. Secondly, he feels indebted to the people around him, to the many multitudes who have yet to have their sins forgiven, who have yet to hear about the gospel of the Lord Jesus Christ, who have yet to know how they can be forgiven in the eyes of a righteous and holy God. And Paul feels a sense of responsibility and indebtedness towards these people, that because he has personally received this good news, he wants to share with them and to tell them how they too can have their sins forgiven. So he's a debtor to God and to men. Secondly, we see that he is ready. He is ready what? To preach the gospel. So again, two senses of this word. Firstly, he is ready in the sense of he knows the gospel because he received it himself. He knows what the gospel entails. The gospel is the good tidings of the free gift of God. And also secondly, he is ready in the sense of he is willing. He is willing to go out. He is willing to be used by God. He is willing to rely upon the power of God to share and to preach the gospel to men and women who need to hear it. He's a debtor and he is ready. And most importantly, in verse 16, he says, I am not ashamed of the gospel of Christ. He is not embarrassed. He's not ashamed. He's not shy to tell others about the Lord Jesus Christ. And why? He tells us that because the gospel is the power of God unto salvation to anyone who would believe. And therefore, the Apostle Paul was going about fulfilling his mission, fulfilling his purpose in the power of God, because he was a debtor, because he was ready, and because he was not ashamed of the gospel of God. My dear friends, how about you and how about me? If we have trusted in the Lord Jesus Christ, these three things should apply to us. We are debtors to God. We should be ready to tell others about the goodness of the Lord Jesus Christ. We should not be ashamed of the gospel of Christ. And if you have not yet trusted the Lord Jesus Christ, I urge you to continue reading or to get in touch, and we can learn more about what it means to be saved. Thank you.
Hello everyone, welcome back to our Singalong. Today we'll be playing another 4 songs. The first song is See First, then Jesus Loves the Little Children, and a lot of the sunshine and then can't stop falling in love. So we'll be playing CE